The morning sun glinted off the glass-paneled Westwood Tower as Malik Johnson strode through the revolving doors, portfolio clutched firmly under his arm. At 32, Malik had fought his way to senior architect at Preston & Associates, one of Philadelphia's most prestigious firms. His crisp navy suit and confident stride masked the exhaustion from staying up until 3 a.m. perfecting the Richardson project designs. "Morning, Mr. Johnson," called the security guard, tipping his hat. Malik nodded back, feeling the familiar weight settle on his shoulders as he entered the elevator. 6 years at the firm, and still he remained the only black architect among 23 employees. The elevator doors opened to the 34th floor, revealing a sea of white faces moving between sleek desks. Conversations quieted momentarily as Malik passed. Some colleagues smiled genuinely, others merely tightened their lips in acknowledgement. "Big presentation today, Johnson?" asked Thomas from the adjacent desk. "Yes," Malik replied, "and I'm ready to knock it out of the park." The conference room buzzed with anticipation. Malik arranged his presentation materials meticulously when the door swung open. Gerald Preston, the firm's founder, entered with a young woman Malik had never seen before. "Everyone, this is my daughter, Sarah Bennett," Preston announced, his hand on her shoulder. "She's joining us from Cornell's architecture program for her summer internship." Sarah, with her chestnut hair and sharp green eyes, surveyed the room confidently. "I'm excited to learn from the best," she said, her gaze landing on Malik's designs. Preston frowned slightly. "Johnson, make room next to Williams." "Actually, Dad," Sarah interjected, "I'd like to observe Mr. Johnson today. His Richardson design looks fascinating." Preston's jaw tightened visibly. "As you wish." Throughout the presentation, Sarah asked insightful questions while Preston grew increasingly uncomfortable. Malik noticed how the older man's eyes narrowed whenever his daughter praised Malik's work. "Remarkable approach to community integration," Sarah commented. Preston checked his watch. "That's enough for today, Johnson. The central atrium should allow natural light to reach all community spaces," Malik explained, pointing to his blueprint spread across the coffee shop table. Sarah leaned forward, her fingertips tracing the design. "It's brilliant how you've incorporated the neighborhood's historical elements." 3 weeks had passed since their first meeting. What began as professional consultations had evolved into regular meetings at Harmony Cafe, a small establishment equidistant from their respective apartments. "My father would never approve," Sarah said quietly, her hand accidentally brushing against Malik's. "Of the design?" Malik asked, though he knew better. "Of this. Of us talking outside work." Sarah met his eyes directly. "You know how he is." Malik nodded. He'd experienced Preston's thinly veiled contempt for 6 years, the overlooked promotions, the backhanded compliments, the client meetings where he was introduced as "one of our draftsmen" despite his senior position. "Yet here we are," Malik replied, a small smile forming. Their conversation stretched beyond architecture into personal territories: his childhood in North Philadelphia, her privileged upbringing in Chestnut Hill, their shared love of jazz and French cinema. They developed a rhythm, carefully avoiding firm events where Preston might see them together. When they passed in hallways at work, their interaction remained strictly professional, but their eyes carried silent conversations. "Sometimes bridges must be built," Sarah said one evening, "even when everyone says the gap is too wide." "Something isn't right with these materials," Malik muttered, spreading the contractor bids across his dining table. Sarah peered over his shoulder, her brow furrowing. "What do you mean?" she asked, studying the documents Malik had brought home. "The Riverside Renewal Project. Your father pushed for Gramercy construction despite their bid being nearly identical to others." Malik pulled out his laptop, opening a spreadsheet. "I've been comparing specifications. Gramercy's proposing substandard materials for foundations, plumbing, insulation, everything that won't be visible after completion." Sarah's face paled. "Are you certain?" "Look here," Malik pointed to several entries. These materials wouldn't pass proper inspection. And here, they've scheduled inspections during holiday weekends when regular inspectors are off. They're using replacements who, he hesitated. Who what, Malik? Who are on someone's payroll? Malik pulled out another folder. I tracked the inspection assignments. 3 different inspectors, all with connections to your father or Councilman Waters. Sarah sank into a chair. The Riverside neighborhood is predominantly black. Exactly, Malik said grimly. 300 families would move into potentially dangerous homes while Preston and Associates and Gramercy pocket the difference. We're talking millions in stolen safety margins. My God, Sarah whispered. Those buildings could collapse within years. Or worse, Malik added, kill someone before that. Gerald Preston's face reddened as Malik placed the evidence folder on his polished mahogany desk. What exactly are you implying, Johnson? Preston's voice was dangerously quiet. I'm not implying anything, sir. These documents show clearly that Gramercy Construction is using substandard materials for the Riverside project. People could die if, people? Preston interrupted, standing suddenly. You mean your people, don't you? Always looking for handouts, never satisfied. Malik stood his ground. This isn't about race, Mr. Preston. This is about safety and ethics. No, this is about you overstepping your position. Preston leaned forward, palms flat on the desk. You were hired to draw pretty pictures, not investigate business decisions. Dad, listen to him. Sarah appeared in the doorway, her face tight with concern. Preston's expression darkened further. You too? I see what's happening here. He turned back to Malik. You're fired, Johnson. Clear out your desk within the hour. And stay away from my daughter. We need more than just documentation, Dorothy explained, tapping her pen against the legal pad. A veteran journalist with the Philadelphia Tribune, she had been covering housing discrimination for 20 years. Malik, Sarah, and Dorothy huddled in a corner booth at Ray's Diner, surrounded by stacks of papers and laptop screens. 2 weeks had passed since Malik's termination. I've got contacts in the permit office, offered James, a civil engineer and Malik's former classmate. We can cross-reference the approved materials with what's actually being delivered to the site. Sarah slid a USB drive across the table. These are the original project files, including the approved safety specifications that were later altered. Won't your father notice these are missing? Malik asked, concern etching his features. He already suspects I'm involved, Sarah replied. He's cut off my access to the firm's servers. Marcus, a construction worker from the Riverside project, joined their table, glancing nervously over his shoulder. I took these yesterday, he whispered, showing them photos on his phone. They're installing electrical systems without proper insulation. One spark near those gas lines. Dorothy nodded grimly. I've confirmed Councilman Waters received over $250,000 in consulting fees from Gramercy last year. And 3 building inspectors took vacations to Gramercy's CEO's Bahamas property, James added, showing them travel records. It's a start, Malik said, but we need irrefutable proof before going public. The annual Philadelphia Urban Development Gala buzzed with the city's elite. Beneath crystal chandeliers, developers, politicians, and investors congratulated themselves on revitalizing neighborhoods. At the center stood Gerald Preston and Councilman Waters, raising champagne glasses to toast the Riverside Renewal Project. Malik adjusted his bow tie, standing beside Dorothy near the service entrance. Sarah, in an elegant emerald gown, positioned herself near the stage. James and 3 Riverside community leaders waited by the main doors. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC announced, please welcome Councilman Waters to present the Urban Vision Award to Gerald Preston. Applause filled the ballroom as Waters approached the podium. Tonight we celebrate a true visionary. The Riverside Project represents the massive screens behind him suddenly changed. Instead of promotional renderings, they displayed side-by-side comparisons of approved materials versus what was actually installed, alongside inspection documents with highlighted falsifications. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "What is this?" Waters sputtered. Dorothy stepped forward, press badge visible. "Councilman, could you explain why building inspectors who approved these dangerous conditions received payments from offshore accounts linked to your campaign?" Sarah approached the stage, handing flash drives to two investigating officers who had entered with James. "Everything's documented here, officers." Preston's face contorted with rage. "This is slander." "Sarah, what have you done?" "The right thing, Dad," she answered firmly. Finally. 6 months later, Malik stood before the renovated Riverside Community Center, cutting a red ribbon as cameras flashed. The crowd cheered, families who had nearly been victims of corporate greed now celebrating a true renewal. "Without Mr. Johnson's courage, we might not be standing here today," Mayor Reynolds proclaimed. Gerald Preston and Councilman Waters faced multiple federal charges. Gramercy Construction had been banned from city contracts. The headlines had called it one of Philadelphia's largest corruption scandals in decades. Sarah squeezed Malik's hand as they watched children rush into the new building. "Some bridges are worth building," Malik whispered, "even when the world says they can't stand." "This one will stand for generations," Sarah replied, looking up at the plaque bearing both their names as lead architects of the redesign project. Behind them, the new Riverside homes gleamed in the sunlight, properly built, properly inspected, and finally, properly safe.